Clemson is the 2016 national champions in football, in like a sport that matters. Not men's soccer, not rowing, not golf, although I'm sure those are all fine sports. The one that Clemson cares about, football. So the game just ended, and I definitely have some thoughts on this as a person who grew up in the Clemson area. My dad's been a season ticket holder to Clemson for 36 years. He got it in 1980, the year before Clemson won their last national championship. I could say that now because it's plural. They have won national championships. They've won titles. A lot happened in this game. A lot of it is kind of what I thought would happen. I had a preview ready to go, and then technology crapped out on me, and then the snow happened, and power messed up, so couldn't put up the preview up. To get into the actual statistics of the game before I give my thoughts on the game, I got a little sheet of paper here. Deshaun Watson threw for 420 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had 43 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. The fact that he threw no interceptions was amazing. He had been a turnover machine during his time at Clemson. Some of it very unfortunate, tip balls, stuff like that. Some of it just bad errors in the red zone, notably against Pitt or opening up the second half against NC State. And some of it just regular quarterback interceptions that everybody throws. But no interceptions meant no defensive touchdowns or defensive points for Alabama, and that ended up being a huge point in this game. Wayne Gallman only had 46 yards rushing and 1 touchdown. 4 Clemson receivers had between 90 and 100 yards receiving. The leader being Hunter Renfrow, who had 10 catches for 2 touchdowns, including a touchdown with 1 freaking second left. For Alabama, Jalen Hurts was 13 of 31 for 131 yards, 1 touchdown. He also had 10 rushes, 63 yards, and a touchdown. Bo Scarborough, 93 yards, 2 touchdowns, though he got injured. O.J. Howard, 106 yards and 1 touchdown. He was last year's MVP of the national championship game. Wow. So, now that we got the boring stats out of the way, Clemson scored a touchdown to win the game with 1 second left. That's something as a Clemson fan growing up that you dream about. That Clemson wins a national championship with 1 second left. It's ridiculous. So, coming into this game, one of the big storylines, obviously, was that Alabama was really good at running, but Jalen Hurts was really struggling in the passing game. A lot, very similar to Ohio State in that regard, where J.T. Barrett had struggled down the stretch in the passing game, but Ohio State ran the ball very well, and we saw what Clemson did to them, but everybody said Alabama's defense was so incredibly good that it would keep them in the game, and ultimately it did. For 59 minutes and 59 seconds, Alabama held the lead in the game. Actually, that's not true, because Clemson went up 24-21, but for 59 minutes and 59 seconds, Alabama's defense kept them in the game, and they had the lead after that incredible Jalen Hurts scramble for a touchdown late in the fourth quarter that it looked like, every Clemson fan's dream. Deshaun Watson in his swan song in his last game would have one last drive to set up to drive down the field to either tie Alabama and send it to overtime, where I thought Clemson would have the advantage, or to beat Alabama in regulation. And with 9 seconds left, they get the penalty, the pass interference call in the end zone, which if you're an Alabama defender is totally fine, because if you're about to get beat by Mike Williams, you are absolutely going to tackle him to the ground. So I was fine with that as a defensive call. 6 seconds left, you have a timeout. They decide instead of trying to kick the field goal, they're going to risk it with their star quarterback and their star wide receiver. And instead, you think they're going to Mike Williams, or they're going to go to Wayne Gallman, or they're going to go to Jordan Leggett. They go to little Hunter Renfrow, the guy who scored the first 2 touchdowns in the game last year against Alabama, the guy who seems to always, he had that incredible catch against Auburn to start the year. He always seems to be in the right place at the right time and make incredible catches. And this catch is going to go down in Clemson history forever. It may end up being the greatest play in Clemson history because it got them the national championship. Now, getting back to actual storylines, Alabama, they just couldn't throw. 13 completions is not going to be enough. If Alabama, and I'll go on record as saying this, if Alabama had a quarterback that could throw downfield with any kind of accuracy, or they had enough time to get him a decent, to stop that Clemson pass rush, If some of those bootlegs had worked out better, I think Alabama wins this game. Bo Scarborough getting hurt and knocked out early in the fourth or late in the third quarter obviously did nothing to help Alabama. Damian Harris only had 5 carries, but couldn't quite get the load in there. I did think they did not go to Joshua Jacobs quite enough in the running game. That's something that, he had no carries in the Peach Bowl. That's something that Sark is going to have to look at in the offseason because he is a really good, explosive, quick, powerful young back, and I think that they could have gotten some more out of him maybe in the screen game. But hindsight, of course, is always 20/20. I was impressed by the nastiness of Alabama's defense. I'm sure there's a lot of Clemson fans that are going to see it as dirty or they were playing past the whistle. I thought for the most part it was fine. Minus Reuben Foster's clothesline and Deshaun Watson. Most of the other game, it was just they were just trying to rip the ball out or intimidate Clemson. But this Tigers team was never intimidated. This is a Clemson team that, for the entirety of the game, for the entirety of the season, was hunting Alabama. They took every punch Alabama threw, and then they gave their own. And they never were scared. They looked at the monster that is Alabama, and Alabama ended up blinking first. Last year, Deshaun Watson had a career game against Alabama, and he one-upped it this year. He had, 463 total? I think last year he had 476 total yards against Alabama. So he's right at it again. He had 4 total touchdowns this year. I believe it was 5 last year. Simply, he showed out. Alabama they just couldn't stop Deshaun. He's the perfect ingredient of what has always kind of been the Achilles heel of Nick Saban defenses, which is he's a smart quarterback. He can take off if he needs to get a first down and extend the drive. He's long. He can reach out for extra yardage. And when he needs to be, he is extremely accurate. He's a good passer. So you can't just be a dual threat quarterback. You have to be a really good dual threat quarterback. And Deshaun Watson's 2 games against Alabama were probably his 2 most memorable games where he kind of played out of his mind for a lot of it. And this performance simply is one of the best in Clemson history. And it had to be, right? Because Alabama's defense was this unstoppable, immovable object. And it was up to offensive coordinators Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott to figure out some ways to attack this very fast, very physical defense. They brought back some of those, toss sweep plays to Artavis Scott that they haven't really implemented much during the 2016 season. They didn't take a whole lot of downfield shots, which lets you know how much they respected not only the front 7 and the pass rush, but also those DBs down deep. They tried to attack the middle, tried to attack in the short game and some screens. The middle screen to Deion Kane seemed to work pretty good the 2 or 3 times they did it, including the first long pass. Alabama killed themselves with numerous penalties, whether it be false starts or mistimed offsides, some pass interference calls, an unsportsmanlike conduct call. 94 really got Clemson down to, I believe, the 16. So just some mental errors beat them. So if you want to look at storylines, it is the exact opposite of last year. So last year, Clemson was number 1 in the country, 14-0, looking to become the first team to ever go 15-0. And Alabama was number 2. They had lost 1 game to a team that they theoretically should have beaten. You can argue that. I think Clemson had a better chance to beat Pitt than Alabama did beat Ole Miss. Alabama held a Big Ten team scoreless in the semifinal. They were trailing 24-21 coming into the fourth quarter and then ended up winning the game by 5 points. This year, Alabama, undefeated, number 1, looking to become the first ever 15-0 team. Clemson, number 2, lost a game during the season that they probably should have won. Beat a Big Ten team in the semifinal by not letting them score a point. And then the third play of the fourth quarter, they trailed 24-21. So this was pretty much the same game. It's just that instead of Alabama going up 10 late after the onside kick and the kick return for a touchdown, Clemson scores in amazing fashion with 1 second left. But it was an incredible game. Both teams played their hearts out. I think the injury to Bo really hurt Alabama, as well as Jalen he just was so flustered. He never felt comfortable in the pocket. A lot of times there wasn't a pocket, and if you had to compare Jalen Hurts to Deshaun Watson, Watson was much more comfortable against probably a better pass rush, worse for him. The pass rush from Alabama, Deshaun never had time, and he stayed in the pocket a lot. Jalen did a really good job of seeing things happen and then making a decision and taking off for some big plays on the running game when Clemson wasn't accounting for him. Deshaun didn't quite have that much success, and Jalen's touchdown late kept Alabama in the game at almost. They were 1 second away from beating Clemson for their 5th title in 8 years. This was Nick Saban's very first loss in a national championship game. Clemson did what many people thought were the unthinkable. They beat Alabama in a national championship game. And it's been 35 years since Clemson has won a national championship. And it is, as someone that's in the area, in the upstate of South Carolina, I can tell you it's incredible. My brother went out to Academy just now to try to get national championship t-shirts, and he said there were like hundreds of people in line, and this is not right at Clemson. So I can only imagine what Clemson's campus is like right now. I assume it's mayhem. They're not supposed to have classes until Wednesday. We'll see. There may not be a campus left standing after this. In short, I grew up a Clemson fan my entire life. I came home from the hospital in a Clemson onesie. My dad's been a season ticket holder forever, like I said. I graduated from the University of Alabama, so honestly, I was fine either way tonight. But growing up a Clemson fan, it was really sweet to have them win tonight. I was pulling for Alabama, if I can be honest, but the fact that Clemson won does not change. It takes the edge off of it because it was against Alabama. But for the most part, that's my review of the game. Alabama could run but couldn't pass. And then when they couldn't pass, Clemson loaded up the box and then they couldn't run. And that ended up being the ultimate decider in the game. If they had somebody who was able to get the ball to the receivers more consistently, I think this would have been a different game. But it wasn't. It was Dabo Swinney's night. It was Clemson's night. It was Deshaun Watson's night. And for everybody in orange and purple who have been waiting so long for a national championship, this is like heaven. This is nirvana. So congratulations, Clemson, on the 2016 national championship. You'll have a heavy crown to wear next year when most of your big games are at home, which is lucky. And we'll see if Clemson, what they can do in the post-Deshaun Watson era. Alabama is already heavy favorites to repeat as national champions or come back to the game again next year. Again, I'm sorry I'm rambling. The game just wrapped, and I want to get this video up, and I'm excited, and it's hot, and So that's it, guys. Let me know what you think about the national championship game. Was it one for the history books? Was it boring in the middle? What did you guys think? How will this stack up against previous national championship games? Let me know that down below. Thank y'all very much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. You can click the circle right there in order to subscribe and get more college football videos, or check the videos over here to my right. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, until next time. A lot of it is kind of what I thought would happen. I had a preview ready to go, and then technology crapped out on me, and then the snow happened, and power messed up, so couldn't put up the preview up. To get into the actual statistics of the game before I give my thoughts, Clemson is the 2016 national champions in football, in like a sport that matters. Not men's soccer, not rowing, not golf, although I'm sure those are all fine sports. The one that Clemson cares about, football. So the game just ended, and I definitely have some thoughts on this as a person who grew up in the Clemson area. My dad's been a season ticket holder to Clemson for 36 years. He got it in 1980, the year before Clemson won their last national championship. I could say that now because it's plural. They have won national championships. They've won titles. A lot happened in this game. On the game, I got a little sheet of paper here. Deshaun Watson threw for 420 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had 43 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. The fact that he threw no interceptions was amazing. He had been a turnover machine during his time at Clemson.